So in this segment, we are going to focus on masculinity. We'll be focusing on toxic masculinity, starting with, that versus what is now referred to as healthy masculinity. But I think it's better to start with what is undesirable for people to understand that, so that we can then talk with the desirable, the ideal, which is what we call healthy masculinity. I'm still with my colleagues here, and they will both be sharing, about this topic. But I'll start with Tato on the far end. Tato, we talk about masculinity. Let's zoom in on what is referred to as toxic masculinity. What is your understanding of toxic masculinity?
Okay, thank you so much, Doc, for the question. So with toxic masculinity, basically it refers to a collection of destructive behaviors, thoughts, and beliefs that the society has constructed in terms of how men or boys should behave.
So we're saying destructive behaviors, thoughts, and feelings that make people feel like this is how a real man should be.
Behave, yes.
Yeah? Okay. Sizwe, just to unpack this a bit, what kind of characteristics that if one displays them, that would point towards a toxic, male, toxic masculinity? Yeah, just share a few things.
Yeah, Doc, look, we're looking at things like violence, aggression, because I need to show up that I'm a man, and that's also how the society views, men. In order for you to be, this is how you should present yourself.
Yeah.
Aggressive, having multiple partners, and being involved in multiple sexual, encounters. Yeah. Some of us, most of men, they also struggling with emotional regulation and stuff. There's a lack of emotional intelligence. Just aggressive, bomb, and
Yes.
yeah.
The younger guys nowadays, they've got a term, a body count. A body count, how many bodies have you ticked off? So you are basically saying to me the issue of body count, the
100%.
number of partners that one has had, intimacy with, is actually something that is part of the characteristics of toxic masculinity.
100%, Doc. I totally agree with that, because I think it also goes with ukuthi ubani, ufuna ukuprove ukuthi ubani wena. That's how you want to prove who
You prove
who
your
you are.
self-esteem by the
Yes.
number of partners that you have.
So already shows that there's a lack of something.
Yeah.
We are talking mental health today. It shows that there's a gap somewhere, somehow. When I want to prove by being exposed in risky behaviors to show others that you are man enough to do these things, you understand? Yeah.
Tato, risk taking, because they say, characteristics of toxic masculinity is risk taking. Besides now the risk around, possibilities of STIs and stuff, what other forms of risky behavior, come to your mind?
I'm thinking
Spinning cars?
Yeah.
Yes, I was about to go there. Thank you so much. I'm thinking of that because of it's a behavior that normal sense. You wouldn't, just to prove that dominance, just to prove that I'm a man. You could just do things like spinning a car, knowing that this could be a reckless behavior, it could be a harmful behavior towards you, but you want to prove a point to the next person that I can do it. I can do all of these things. So it is more of something that is out of your character.
Yes.
In a way, if I can put it that way.
But one of the characteristics is suppression of emotions. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, it's one of the most, characteristics that we really don't talk about, because some men, they don't express their emotions, they don't express their thoughts, and then they rather suppress them. But at the end of the day, some of us, they operate like volcanoes.
Yes.
At the surface, there's a lot that you're piling up, and then when everything that erupts, that's why we have a lot of cases, if I can include GPV nowadays, suicide, because we can't handle, because the conveyor belt now is congested. We can't take it anymore. We are born. So the only way is to let me just end it all for everyone and for myself.
Yes.
So
Yes.
suppressing emotions mentally, it's not okay. You know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Tato,
Yes.
as we wrap up the toxic masculinity part and going towards healthy masculinity, there is a saying that toxic masculinity shapes how men behave, think, and feel about themselves, as well as how they behave, think, and feel about others. Now, there is a saying that, males bleed on others who did not injure them because they keep these emotions from the many things that they've experienced where they did not deal with the emotions relating to that. And at some point, they bleed, and they may bleed on people who were not responsible for injuring them. Your thoughts around that?
Thank you for that, Doc. I'm actually happy that you did mention that because a lot of us, we have our past traumas that we don't deal with, that we suppress, as my colleague mentioned here. We suppress a lot of past traumas and we don't deal with them. We don't want to talk about them. We are not provided with a platform to say it's okay to speak
Safe
about
spaces.
it. A safe space to speak about these things. However, then a body has a way of, expressing those emotions. And that's where we find the innocent bystanders. Someone who was never there in your life before, but then now they get to see this other side of you that is coming from your past because of you didn't deal with it accordingly.
Yeah.
Hence, now we end up, expressing these emotions in wrong people. who didn't-
Inappropriately to wrong
Inappropriately.
people.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So maybe let's move on to the healthy masculinity, the desirable or desired type of masculinity.
Yeah.
I mean, we are in a country that has got a lot of a femicide. We are in a country that has got a lot of gender-based violence, and men are obviously the key drivers of those unknown unacceptable kind of statistics. Now, let's flip it. When we talk about healthy masculinity,
Yeah.
what is it that we expect out of men
Yeah.
to be able to say this man is exhibiting traits or characteristics of healthy masculinity?
Yeah.
I'll start with you, Sizwe.
I think, Doc, it goes back to being aware as a passenger, individually, as a man, also being aware of your emotions. Ukuthi, if you are angry at something, where is that coming from? Being in touch with your emotions and being able to regulate those emotions. Khona le nto uthi, hey, ndoda ayikhali, hey, this and that, why not? Why not you cry? Why not you feel vulnerable, around a situation where you're vulnerable and seek help, professionally that will allow you to actually get guidance and better ways of, healthy ways of handling that particular issue as well. Open up as well as gents. Most of us, we tell our problems to the bottle, Doc, but then it shows up into the behavior at the end of the day because we're talking toxic masculinity as well. It shows up, the behavior cannot lie because it's something you've been suppressing like we talked earlier on. We need to open up as gents and be in touch with our emotions to say, I'm very disappointed, I'm sad, or whatever emotion that you attach with a particular situation.
Yeah.
It does help.
Okay. Tato, your take on this thing called healthy masculinity, the desired form of masculinity. Can you just tell us, your thoughts around that? What kind of characteristics or traits should a male, exhibit that would convince you that this man is the ideal kind of, male that we should be having in South Africa?
Thank you for the question, Doc. I think I just want to start here. There's a conference that I went to where we were discussing, it was like a group of male where we were talking about mental health and around men.
Yeah.
And one thing that came to me at that moment was how we were able to get vulnerable around men, that safe space around men. So we need to start somewhere with this a movement whereby we encourage one another. So the safe space is where it starts, where we can speak with each other as men, and then I can just call upon you and call on sisters to say, "Sister, let's go over a lunch or something. Let's talk about these things. If that will create a safe space for you. Let's be vulnerable. Let's express our emotions. Let's be accountable for what we feel."
Yeah.
There's a societal view of, yes, a man doesn't cry. Crying is for ladies and all of that.
Yeah.
But then whoever said that, now the recipe is no longer working nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of then the suicide rate is going up.
Yes.
So definitely we need to be in touch with the emotions, that everything that we're trying to
Yes.
avoid,
Yes.
we need to go back to it.
Yes.
And then approach it.
So you're basically saying there is a need, starting with you, Sizwe, for men to be in touch with their emotions, know their emotions, identify their emotions, be able to control their emotions.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Which is normally referred to as emotional intelligence.
Yes, Doc.
Be empathetic.
Yeah.
And more self-awareness.
Yes, Doc.
So you're talking about that. You're talking about men being comfortable, being vulnerable, obviously, to people whom they believe will not use that vulnerability against them.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But also, I think it's important to know who are the people around you that you can trust to be able to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So sometimes we've got we've got so many people around us we think they are friends.
Yeah.
But maybe going deeper to look at the quality of the
Yes.
people around you.
Yeah.
Rather few quality people will provide you with support than many people that you call friends who, when you go through some situation, you're not confident in opening up about them. Yeah?
Yeah, Doc.
So, Tato, this statement, men don't cry. Growing up, there was a very famous song by the Manhattans that says, "Men cry too."
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the younger guys around here, if they've heard that song. It's a very beautiful song.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's about encouraging men to be able to express their emotions. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with expressing your emotions. There's nothing wrong with crying. There's nothing wrong with wanting a hug. In some parts of the world, people now hire others just to be there to listen to them.
Yeah.
Because they don't trust that the people around them can actually give them an ear so that they can show vulnerability. So when we're talking of a healthy masculinity, we're really talking of a new type of man.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
man who
Yeah.
is constructive in society,
Yeah.
not a man who is a menace to society.
You know, Doc, that triggered a statement that, in order for us as men to create a better version of ourselves,
Yeah.
we need to be able to identify our negative weaknesses.
Yes.
And also identify those positive traits. It's okay, fine, these are my negative weaknesses, but this is how I can remold these
Yes.
negative weaknesses.
That's where
Yeah.
the EQ comes in.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
emotional intelligence
Yeah.
or emotional quotient. All right, so we're gonna need to wrap this up because we still have another section that we need to focus on, which is a biggie, which is mental health and what can go wrong with one's mental health. Stress, burnout, or mental illnesses. So the next segment will be focusing on that. So for now, let's take a break.